hi. The other night, while reading in bed, my wife suddenly turned to me and said those three little words that get my heart racing.
What's that noise?
I shuddered and listened carefully, but didn't hear anything. I leaned toward her and whispered, "What noise?" She paused and listened again.
That noise.
Aside from the rain and the wind outside, all I could hear was a slightly metallic tink, almost like the sound of water dripping. "That noise?" I asked. "That's not a noise. That's just a tink." She shook her head.
It sounds like dripping water to me.
"It's not dripping water. It's just a tink." I tried to return to my book. Lois didn't pick up her magazine, so I knew she wasn't satisfied with my explanation. So I put down my book and listened, trying to hone in on the exact location of the tink. With my attention now firmly fixed on trying to uncover the mystery of the tink, Lois went back to reading her magazine. The event took me back to the first time my wife asked me those three ominous words. Shortly after Lois and I got married, we moved to Kent, Washington so she could take a job teaching with the Kent School District. We were both fresh out of college, living in Bellingham at the time, so we decided to pack up what little we had and begin our adventure together in a new place. I was still looking for a job, and we were eager to buy a home, so we decided to find a cheap place and rough it for a few years so we could save up for a down payment on a house. As luck would have it, the principal at the school where Lois was teaching had a rental unit. It was cheap and available, so we took it. The house was small. Well, it wasn't really a house. I suppose you could call it a cabin, but that has a kind of quaint, sort of woodsy feel to it. Perhaps a shack or a hovel would be more appropriate. Our landlord shared its history with us. Apparently, when Weyerhaeuser finished clearing trees from the land in the area a long time ago, they left two mobile offices behind. Someone had the great idea to set the two side by side on a foundation of cedar logs. They hooked up electricity and running water and called it home. Now, there was a definite slope from one half of the shack to the other. The main entrance was off the kitchen, which also served as the dining room. From there, you climbed into the living room. You had to watch your footing descending back into the bedroom, or you might take a tumble. I developed the habit of bracing myself with a hand on the ceiling, which is barely 7 feet high. The bathroom in this place took some getting used to. The room itself wasn't part of the building per se. It was kind of an attached outhouse with running water. I could reach diagonally and touch opposite corners with my fingertips at the same time. There was no bath, just a rusty metal shower stall barely wide enough for me to squeeze into. I had to walk into the shower with my hands over my head, otherwise I wouldn't be able to raise my arms to wash my hair. The toilet had weeds growing up around the base. It wasn't actually connected to the floor. It just kind of rested on the drain pipe it was attached to, and we could actually see daylight through the cracks on a sunny day. The nice thing about the bathroom was we never had to worry about the sink ever clogging up. We figured that out one day when my wife was brushing her teeth and I was getting dressed in the bedroom. I had the window cracked open to let in some fresh air, a rare commodity in that place, when I noticed the sound of running water. At first, I thought it was coming from the bathroom. But when I looked out the window, I noticed an open drain pipe coming out of the bathroom wall. Water from the sink was just pouring into the weeds behind the house. I wonder where the toilet's drain pipe led to. Ugh. One of the challenges we faced was dealing with pests. One highly unusual population was slugs. It wasn't uncommon for us to return home on a rainy day to find our doorstep covered with slugs trying to get in out of the rain. We turned them away, of course, but on more than one occasion, Lois emerged from our bedroom to find the dried, shriveled remains of a slug that had made it halfway across the living room carpet before succumbing to dehydration. Another pest was the two-footed kind, commonly known as civil servants. Apparently, there had been a number of crack houses discovered in the area, so the police had a routine of doing spot checks on suspicious-looking residential areas by helicopter in the middle of the night. Let me tell you, there's nothing like being awakened at 2 a.m. by floodlights pouring in your bedroom window while the percussion of chopper blades slicing through the air overhead rattles the walls and ceiling. first time it happened, I rushed from the bedroom half expecting to find Richard Dreyfuss in our kitchen, sculpting the Devil's Tower National Monument on the table out of mashed potatoes. The most unnerving pest was yet to be discovered. One night, I was awakened from a deep sleep by those three little words that still leave me shuddering when I hear them.
What's that noise?
I pried my eyelids open and turned to see Lois's alert eyes staring back at me in the dark. I could see them in the dark because they glowed with that intensity that comes from urgency and fear. I knew I wouldn't get any sleep with all that glowing in the room, so I listened. Sure enough, there was a noise coming from overhead. It was a kind of scratching, scraping noise, and it was directly over our bed, coming from the attic. Mice. I listened for a moment, then reached up and rapped on the ceiling. The sound of mice feet scampering away confirmed my suspicion. The glow was gone from Lois's eyes, and her slow, relaxed breathing soon confirmed that she had fallen asleep. But now I was wide awake. I lay back down, but I was alert to all the little noises in the house. I don't remember much more of that sleepless night, aside from my resolution to take care of the mice problem the next day. On my way home from work, I picked up some mouse traps. While Lois was getting dinner ready, I climbed into the attic and spread traps across the confined space. I figured by morning, if we were lucky, we'd have the critter in one of the traps. When I got back inside, Lois had dinner ready, so I washed up. There's that sound of running water again. And sat down to dinner. We'd barely started in on our meatloaf when something directly over the dining table snapped. After the tiniest pause, something flopped around frantically. Lois and I stared at the ceiling as the flopping came to a halt. When I looked back down, Lois's eyes grew large with tears welling up in the corners. In a shaky whisper, she said,
You killed it.
So now I know there's no good that comes from answering the question, what's that noise? I don't care if it's a rabid grizzly bear growling outside our back door. As far as I'm concerned, that's not a noise. That's just a tink.